Hello everyone, welcome back to Pixel Village and I'm Radhakrishnan. Let's talk about cinematography for a change. Cinematographers use camera movements effectively to convey an emotion, heighten the feeling of a situation. Until 1975, the most popular camera movements that were available to be used were a dolly or a camera crane. But in 1975, Garrett Brown, a camera operator, invented a device using which you could mount a camera onto a handheld device, run with it, slide with it, climb down the steps without creating camera jerk. And that device was branded as Steadicam, which subsequently became a generic name for all camera stabilizers. Lots of variations of that Steadicam in various price points and shapes and sizes became subsequently available, and we've been using it very frequently. The most recent entrant to this whole game is something called a 3-axis gimbal. In this video, we're going to talk about such a gimbal. And in typical Pixel Village fashion, we're going to present to you a set of products which offer great value at a fantastic price range. Let's take a look at them. It's the Moza range of camera stabilizers from a company called Goodson. Goodson. Doesn't matter. So they offer 3 types of products. The first one is for a DSLR, and the second one is for a mirrorless camera, and the third one is for a mobile phone. So let's unbox them. Nice. All of them come in hard boxes. What we do is let's open one by one and see how they look. So this one is for the DSLR. Let's get these guys out. This is the DSLR gimbal, meant for full-size DSLRs. It can carry up to 3.2 kilograms of payload. Now let's open the one for the mirrorless. Okay, nice case, very compact. Let's get this guy also out. This one is for the mirrorless, much lighter in terms of construction, but similar design. It of course doesn't have the hand grip and the remote control. Let's look at the one made for the mobile phones now. Okay, very carbon fiberish looking carry case, very interesting. Let's get this guy out. Well, much lighter, of course. It is for a mobile phone, so hence it is very light, and I'm assuming that it's much more easier to operate too. What we're going to do next is going to see what a gimbal is, how you're going to mount a camera onto it, and how to use it. For which I don't require the mobile phone one and the mirrorless camera gimbal. And let's come to the DSLR gimbal. So before we actually start setting up the gimbal and start demonstrating it, let's try and understand the underlying concept behind the design of a gimbal, which will definitely help you to set it up and use it. So it involves a little bit of physics. This is a box, right? Of course, you know it. It occupies 3 dimensions: width, height, and length in space. It is staying now stable like this because Earth's gravitational force is pulling it down in a straight line. Now, there is an imaginary point somewhere inside this box called the center of gravity. From that point, which in all directions the weight is distributed equally. The moment that center of gravity goes outside the support line. For example, here it is being supported by the base. Imagine the center of gravity is somewhere here. And if I start shifting this way, as long as that center of gravity stays within the support of the body, the object will come back to its original place. The moment it goes outside the support line, the object becomes unstable and it will fall over. Now, I am trying to hold this using my fingers. To be able to hold it, I need to do something called balancing. I'm trying to find a point of support which is almost perpendicular to the center of gravity, where the weight is distributed equally onto all sides, because I am now supporting only from bottom. If I can't find that, it will fall over. But see what happens when I start adjusting my hand. So the moment it starts moving away from me or moving closer to me, I start adjusting my hand. What is happening now is that by readjusting constantly, I am keeping the center of gravity and my support line in a straight line. Thereby, this box is now stabilized. Well, what is happening here is that I'm using my wrist, my elbow and my shoulder joint to balance, to constantly readjusting these combinations to keep this guy in balance. Now, it's almost an involuntary action, but somebody is giving that instruction. Who's that? It's my brain. Cut to my gimbal. Can you pass camera, please? Thank you. Imagine the camera is on a tripod on a very stable surface. You will continue to get very stable image. But when you start running, moving, walking with the camera while filming, you're constantly moving the camera and thereby creating a very jerky moment. But in order to create a very silky, smooth, soft movement, you will have to constantly keep the camera in a very well balanced position in order to achieve the smooth, fluid movement. The gimbal does exactly that. It takes the help of 3 motors and a gyroscope. The gyroscope acts like our brain, and these 3 motors act like the joints in our hand. Hope it was clear and you could understand the concept behind the gimbal design. Now, let's get into setting up the camera on the gimbal. A gimbal can be controlled using 3 different ways. One is using the on-off switch and the joystick which is behind the gimbal. Second is using a remote control which is here, and you can also control it through a mobile phone. All you need to do is to download the mobile app from Godson's website. The mobile app is called Moza Assist. Once you download it, like any other mobile app, you have to pair it with the device and then you can start controlling it from the app itself. Before you set up a camera on the gimbal, you have to tune the gimbal and calibrate it. It is like aligning and balancing your car wheels or calibrating your computer monitor. Once it is done, then you are ready to do your work. Now on to the most important ritual of setting up the gimbal, which is balancing the camera on the gimbal. Remember, balancing the camera should be done only on the switch off position. Never attempt that in the power switched on position. If you do that, it's going to be a little expensive for you. Again, there are a few things to remember before you start setting up. Make sure the camera is fully prepared so that you don't have to add or remove anything from the camera once it is balanced and is on the gimbal. Things like memory cards, battery, the rear monitor positions, or lens hood or a filter, all that needs to be decided before you start balancing the camera on the gimbal. There are a list of cameras which are supported by Moza Air. The list is available on the website, is also available in the instruction manual. In case if you are using any of those cameras which are supported, well, then you can use the cables Like there is one for Nikon, there's one for Sony, and one for Canon. You can use these cables, and once it is connected, balanced, you can control the camera from the remote control and the app. It is usually used for triggering the camera, also setting up your time-lapse shots, motion control shots. Okay, so another important thing, make sure that this arrow is pointing upwards. By any chance, if you pick it up like this, the arrow will point downwards and the gimbal will never balance. So make sure that this is pointing upwards all the time. And when you pick up the gimbal from the box, all these adjustment arms will be in a kind of a minimum position. Make sure that you release them and keep them extended comfortably outwards also. Okay, so that basically creates enough space here to accommodate a DSLR. Pick up the camera. The Moza Air comes with a quick release plate and an adapter, so that now you don't have to struggle with the gimbal while connecting the camera. So this is the base plate. Okay, I'm going to mount this on. Okay, two things. First is the arrow should point towards the lens, and second is make sure that the base plate is absolutely straight. Okay, now just tight. Pick up the plate, slide it in. Okay, make sure that it is tight completely, because if you let it go, it'll kind of fall off the gimbal. It can be pretty costly. So make sure that it is fixed properly into the base. Okay, now for a cinematographer, this is the tilt, and for the gimbal, this is the pitch. Cinematographer calls this pan, but the gimbal guys call it yaw, and this is called the roll. So pitch, yaw, and roll. These are the three controls that we will learn about, and we must remember this terminology because, as cinematographers and as photographers, we are not really familiar with this terminology. Okay, I suggest that you turn it this way and make sure that the weight distribution on either side is proper. You can balance this by shifting the pitch arm. So I'm going to slightly adjust. Okay, this is heavy this side. Okay, now this is balanced perfectly like this. Okay, the next angle, which is the front and back balance. Currently, it is a little rear heavy. So what I have to do is to loosen the base plate and shift the camera a little forward. Okay, it is tilting a little forward, so I need to shift it a little towards the back, and that's now front heavy. I have a small suggestion to make to Moza people. Like in those technical cameras, maybe they can consider, incorporating geared knobs so that movements can be pretty calibrated. I don't need to guess the, shift. You can actually make a turn and the arm moves in a very controlled fashion. I think that will make the balancing really easy. Moza can probably consider using that. Okay, now this is now perfectly balanced for the pitch angle. Now what I need to correct is the roll angle. What you have to do is to adjust the roll adjustment arm, push it to the appropriate side so that the camera starts balancing on its own. Now it's still heavy on this side, which is your right side. Okay, now it's become straight. So what I have to do is to tighten the arm. Right, it's better. The next axis that I need to adjust is the yaw axis, for which I have to remove the hand grip. Okay, so let me remove the hand grip. So what you have to do is to, let me hold it like this. The idea is to get the yaw arm to come and stay here. Release the yaw adjustment arm knob and slowly start pushing it this way. Okay, not yet. Get a little more. and yes. Okay, as you can see, even the yaw axis now is balanced. Let me connect the hand grip again. Right. Now the camera is perfectly balanced on the gimbal and the gimbal is ready to be used. To start using, first remember to switch on the camera and activate the live view. I have not switched on the gimbal now, and as you can see, the horizon is not corrected. The virtual horizon indicates a small error in balancing. Now see what happens when I switch on. Okay, the camera quickly stabilizes itself. The gyro inside sends signals to the corresponding motors and corrects the horizon perfectly well. I'm going to lift it up. As you see, there is no function dialed in the gimbal. To dial in a function, you have to use a particular combination of pressing the joystick and the power button to address a function. You press the joystick once, the gimbal will switch to something called yaw follow mode. Yaw, like I said, is equivalent to a pan. So when you turn, the camera also will follow. The gimbal also will follow the movement of your hand. I'm going to press the joystick once. Okay, so this is in yaw follow mode. So I'm going to turn. If I turn, the camera also will follow. I turn the other way, the camera also will follow. But at this time, if I try to tilt down, the camera will not tilt down or will not tilt up. So it is only in the yaw follow mode. But in case if you want to tilt up or tilt down, then you need to activate the next mode, which is the yaw and pitch mode, for which I need to press the joystick twice in quick succession. 1, 2. So the gimbal is now ready to do the yaw and pitch follow mode. Okay, it is now yaw follow, and can you see the camera tilting down? When I tilt up, the camera also tilting up, tilting down, tilting up, and yaw and yaw. Now if the camera is now in a, wherever that you left the camera is in, that's the place the camera is now aimed at. You need to bring the camera back to the 0, position before you dial in a new one, for you to get a reference, that is. So to do that, you need to triple press the on off button. So when you triple press the on off button, 1, 2, 3, the gimbal will reset to its 0, position and it is ready to take the next instruction. What I'm trying to do is now to activate the roll movement. For roll follow mode, the sequence is 4 times the joystick. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now the gimbal is ready for the roll follow function. Now I'm going to roll. So when I roll, if you can see the camera is rolling along with my action. And there will be times when you don't want any of these functions to take place. You just want to follow the person with all these modes locked in, meaning no yaw, no tilt, or no roll, for which I need to press the sequence is 3 times the joystick. 1, 2, 3. Now the gimbal is in all locked position. So what happens is, whatever I do, the camera will not move from its position at all. If I turn, pan, tilt, roll, it will stay exactly where it is, giving you a very interesting feel. So when you use the gimbal and force the camera to follow you, it is called a follow action. But if you're using the joystick to create that motion, it will be called the control action. So I am panning left and panning right, exactly how you would use a joystick. I can tilt up and tilt down. Now, to activate the roll control mode, you need to press the on-off button 4 times. Quick succession. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Now, when I use the joystick, the camera starts rolling. There is another exciting mode called the Inception mode in Moza gimbals. To activate that, you have to press and hold the joystick and press the on-off button 3 times. What else is left? You can also use the joystick and the on-off button to calibrate, to put the gimbal to sleep when you are not using it for some time, and a few more functions. But mainly, there are 2 big operations that you do with it. One is a follow, another is a control. And also, like I mentioned earlier, if your camera is compatible with the gimbal, you can use the on-off button to even activate the recording. 1 press to start recording and press again to stop recording. Well, and of course, there is also an option to take a still photograph. Press the on-off button twice and the camera will take a still photograph. That is provided the camera is compatible with the gimbal. Like I mentioned earlier, all the functions that you do with the joystick and the on-off button can also be done with the Moza remote control. It's a Bluetooth device, so you have to first enable and pair this remote trigger with the device. So the controls are very limited, so you need to go through a routine which you need to remember properly. The only advantage is that you have a small readout here. So press the on-off button and you will see a small dial. Long press the option and the first option is pair. What you have to do is to switch off the gimbal, activate pairing, switch on the device, and it will say paired OK, which means now the device is paired with the remote control. What you can do is you can control the speed of the yaw, speed of the pitch, and also control the roll. If your camera is compatible, like I said earlier, you can trigger the record function from the remote control. Okay, so let me increase the speed to high for both yaw and the pitch. Okay, now the turn is much faster. The pitch is much faster. Once I reset, change to completely low, now the pan or the yaw is very low, tilt is also very low. In case if you need to vary the speeds of pitch follow and yaw follow, it can be adjusted only from the mobile app. There is another very interesting function which the remote control offers, is called the mimic follow function. I have to take the hand grip out, hold the hand grip in my hand and long press the option button. You will get a series of options, scroll down and there is a control called motion control and you say start. Once it is start, whatever I do with the hand grip will be mimicked or followed by the gimbal there, which is very interesting. If I am remotely viewing the footage or someone else is operating the gimbal and you want to control the camera, this is how you do it. You can do all the functions. I think the roll function may not work while I am doing this. The roll may not work. Only pitch and yaw, pitch and yaw. For me, it was not just a review. For me, it was a learning. I was playing with all these gimbals for almost 1 week. And I realized more I learn, there's more to be discovered. I really envy those people who can really handle this and create magic out of this. A smooth, steady, interesting shot can really add value to your film. So much so that some of the great cinematographers of the West have their favorite Steadicam operator. The story goes that the 3 times Oscar award-winning cinematographer Emmanuel Lubezki waited almost a year for his favorite Steadicam operator to get free while doing the movie Tree of Life for Terrence Malick. Which means if you practice enough and raise your level to that, even someone like Lubezki will wait for you. Bye for now.